the North Carolina Asian Americans Together, the LGBT Center of Raleigh, Muslim Americans Public Affairs Council, that's a mouthful, sorry, Delta Sigma Theta, Oaks and Spokes, the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance, and the Hillsborough Street Community Service Corporation. They all, with us, came together because a lot of the time the policies that City Council make are decided by a population that's not the population that feels the burden the most by those policies. So we came together to get the word out to those estimated 250,000 voters who are going to be coming out in this election to remember to turn that ballot over and vote local. Along with our incredible partners, we could not have done any of this without our organizer, Lindsay Saunders, who put all of these together and managed getting our candidates there on time and managed all the different working pieces. And we were able to have her because of our wonderful sponsors, ARP, the Blue Ridge Corridor Alliance, the Hillsborough Street Community Service Corporation, Nextdoor, Redesign Build, and recently just an incredibly generous grant from Blueprint, North Carolina. WRAL is here streaming this live to everyone who's at home. They're on their couches watching this in their socks too, so you are all in good company. You have noticed probably that there are no cards when you were coming in. We're asking you to participate in asking questions too. So we have prepared questions, but we will be taking questions from you all. And those of you at home can also do this live by sending tweets with hashtag #VoteRaleigh22, and we will get your questions into there. So now for our moderator. Travis has been a reporter for 24 years, covering government in 3 states. After 19 years in newspaper, he joined WRAL about 5 years ago, focused on state government. I want to thank Travis for joining us and introduce him. I apologize. Sorry, we also have a translator. I wasn't sure if you...
Oh, wonderful.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, my name is Murtado. I'm here with Angie in the back. I'm going to make an announcement in Spanish regarding Spanish interpretation, but not before saying that I want to appreciate the organizers of this event for making their commitment to language justice. Mi nombre es Murtado, bienvenidos a todos. Estamos en la parte de atrás y vamos a estar ofreciendo interpretación al español para aquellos participantes que lo necesiten. Muchas gracias. Back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you everybody. As Vince said, I'm Travis Snyder, I work for WRAL. Happy to be here with you. A couple of housekeeping things. Everybody turn your cell phone off, please. No one wants to get stared at because their cell phone rings during something like this. To respect the kind of the flow of the conversation here, we ask you no applauding or commenting. I don't think that'll be a problem, but let these folks speak. Candidates, when you speak clearly, please. Remember there's the live stream, some interpretation, watch the time. You're gonna have 1 minute for most questions, and there will be someone pointing out when you need to stop and giving you a little warning ahead of time. Candidates for the Raleigh City Council seats, they run for 2-year terms. In addition to voting on a district seat, voters choose 2 at-large candidates and a mayor. Today, we're talking about mayor. We've got Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin, got Quanta Copeland, and Terrence Root down there at the end. The mayor here is seeking a 2nd term, and of course she has 2 challengers. Over the past few weeks, Wake Up and a diverse coalition of partners have held forums for districts A, B, C, D, E, well that's hard to say, and the at-large seat. All candidates are nonpartisan, meaning they don't represent a political party, and these forums are neither for or against any particular candidate. Early voting in these races runs from October 20th to November 5th. Election day is Tuesday, November 8th. Deadline to register to vote is October 14th, but you can also register in person during early voting. So if you go to an early voting site and you're not registered, you can register then. That is not an option on November 8th, the actual election day. Here are the rules of this forum. Candidates will have an opportunity to give a 2-minute opening introduction in response to the first question. After that, they will have 1 minute to answer questions. We're going to look at the themes of housing, transportation, climate change, environmental justice, and equity. These are questions written in advance. Questions must be directed to issues affecting the entire city, not to an individual candidate. All candidates will have a chance to answer each question. Candidates, again, please keep an eye on the timer. Watch for that stop sign. And following the prepared questions, we're going to get into audience questions. Like Nathan said, you got an index card. If you need more than one, let somebody know. After the question period concludes, candidates will have 1 minute for a closing statement. And that's it, y'all. And since we're not going to do applause during the event, how about now, not only for these folks for offering themselves for office, but for folks willing to give a Saturday up for democracy. All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Can you hear me here? I'm going to take this mic, and y'all need, since y'all need to pass one, that might be a little simpler. First question. You get 2 minutes for this one. Candidates, please tell us about the work you do in professional and advocacy life that propels you to run for office, and how does the expertise you develop there benefit everyone in Raleigh?
Wow. Okay, so a couple of things come to mind. I have served as mayor since December 2019, and we all know what happened after that. So service during unprecedented times when we had to make decisions that no one else ever had to make. And so that certainly prepares you and gives you a lot of backbone because you're criticized no matter what you do. But what I have tried to do during the past 2.5 years is really lead with the information I had at the time, trust my gut, and make data-driven decisions. And that, I think, has prepared me well for anything that can happen, including hurricanes. But the other thing, I served on the City Council at large for 10 years, where I was an advocate for housing affordability and transit. I served on the Go Triangle Board for 9 years. And that has given me knowledge about where we're heading and prepared me to work with others to ensure that we can enhance our transit experience. We're going to need that infrastructure as we continue to grow. And third, I'm a marketing professional. I started my career as a journalist. God bless you, for 24 years. I lasted 8. But that really prepared me from a communication standpoint and storytelling standpoint. But it also enabled me to work in nonprofits where I have successfully led different foundations, Carolina Hurricanes being one, the Holt Brothers being another, to really work for kids. And that's where my passion is. I'm currently with First Tee of the Triangle now, VP of Advancement, and that warms my heart.
All right, the question is, tell us what you do in your professional advocacy life and how that can help people in the city and how it leads you to run for office.
Okay. I'm DeQuanta Copeland, and I am Vice Chair to the Health and Human Services Board of Wake County. I am President of my own nonprofit youth organization. I'm co-founder. I'm advocate in the communities. I'm boots on the ground is what we call us. I have been a resource in the community even when I needed the resources. So what I do is I go out and I speak with families to see what assistance they need, and we service and provide assistance to them according to their need. Because so often detrimental decisions have been made with the wrong perspective, but thinking that it was a good thing to do. So as an advocate in the community, I currently work for College Foundation. I'm a senior specialist for kids in college and families. I also am a juvenile justice mentor. I'm an advocate in the school system, and I'm a mentor to kids. So coming through this pandemic in unprecedented times, I opened up my house to almost 20 kids during COVID, and I called it CVU, Coronavirus University, because in my mind, our kids across our city is set up for failure. But I had the ability to work from home, and there was a need. And so that I had to be one. Knowledge is power, but power comes with responsibility. So once you know, you're responsible to make a solution. And I'm asking you guys to stand with me to be the solution that Raleigh needs.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I'm a husband and a father of an 8-year-old son that goes to Green Elementary. I'm a professor at NC State School of Social Work, but my work in organizations like Forward Cities and Reparations for the Breach has allowed me to see exactly what community investments would look like in cities similar like Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Westmoreland, Kansas City, just to name a few in which I have directly impacted. I've seen some of the same issues we see in our city right now. Affordability as a challenge, rapid displacement as a challenge, small business owners seeing the pressures of this current economic climate. And I've also seen where small businesses have felt ignored and unheard. And that is where I enter this journey to lead the city, because that's where I bring the most strength.
All right, Ms. Copeland, we start with you on this question. Remember, 1 minute for the questions going forward, please. The North Carolina Budget and Tax Center reported recently that a family of 4 must make at least $81,000 a year to afford to live in Wake County. 2 adults would have to make $20 an hour and work at least 40 hours a week, of course. There's been a rise in homelessness as well in the city. How will you address the shortage of affordable housing to buy or to rent in Raleigh and ensure that people who provide services like hospitality, retail, even teachers, police, and firefighters are able to afford to live in our city?
So as a city, we can't do anything on the city level to cap the increase. However, we can advocate on the state level on behalf of the city residents to create more affordable housing, working with the coming developers and not allowing big businesses and developers to come in and develop properties that is not affordable to the people here who needs it. We can work with developers and homeowners and property owners to guarantee that we can help them on the back end so that the families are not the ones footing that increased bill and influx. So working with retailers, we can assist them on the back end so that the people can get what they need affordable according to the livable wage that they are being paid now.
All right, to Mr. Ruth. And, if anyone ever needs a question repeated, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know.
Yes, affordability continues to be a problem in our city, but there's several ways in which I have seen in community directly where families have been a part of eviction meetings. I've been in communities where there have been eviction parties. I've been in schools and neighborhoods where families feel that the pressure of affording a home has been very complicated. So here are some of the things in which I see we can move more aggressively on affordable housing. One, we need to elevate and highlight and create a department that focuses exclusively on affordable housing, just like we have in Wake County and other municipalities. Number 2, we need to actually hear from those who have been impacted the most, so our policies reflect their actual needs. Number 3, we need to be transparent in terms of what we actually are doing around affordability. How many units are we creating in terms of affordability? How many units have we lost from naturally affordable housing? And then where are we in our progress? Most individuals do not feel better off 2 years ago than they do now in terms of affordability.
We got 2 mics for 3 people. We'll figure it out one way or another.
So this is an area that this council has focused on since December 2019, but I started working on this issue in 2016 when I was on the council. First one to come out in favor publicly of a 1-cent dedicated property tax for housing affordability. Since 2016, we have invested as a city $90 million in affordable housing. We have partnered, so that's leveraging that $90 million. So far, $702 million worth of new housing has been built with our partners. That's 3,900 units. Some of them have been constructed, some are under construction, creating 30 communities throughout our city. We also have a partnership with Campbell University to help with evictions, and we're moving forward with our housing bond, which was passed by 73% of the voters. That's going to be key.
All right, Ms. Ruth, we start with you on this one. How did the City Council offer better property tax relief, particularly for people who don't qualify for existing programs, relief programs at the county level?
Yes, this has been a concern for most students, most residents who already feel cost burdened by housing and transportation. What we see coming down the pipeline is property valuations that will also levy an additional wave of tax burden, cost burden on residents. I think we need to focus on those who are most vulnerable. And of those who are most vulnerable, we know that there is a population in our city who is living on a fixed income. And those are some of our aging and senior residents who know that living in the city is increasing by the day, either in owning a home or in renting. And so now we're seeing where taxes are now placing people out of their long-term investment, their housing. Also, we're seeing where it's removing them from the community that they have been invested in for a very long time. Also, we have some members who can't afford the existing structure. So what does it mean to provide protection around those individuals?
All right, Mayor Baldwin next, and then Ms. Coe.
So Wake County collects the taxes. We do not. So we have to work with them to create a program. One currently exists. Is for people aged 65 and older on fixed incomes and people who are disabled. I think part of our challenge has been we have not publicized that. So we need to do a better job of communicating what currently is available. But the other thing we are doing is we are working with Wake County to enhance that program. We will have to go to the state legislature to get approval for that. Anything related to the Homestead Act has to be approved by them. So Wake County has done that once, but we're willing to continue to work and add that to our legislative agenda at the appropriate time. But as I said, work is currently underway on that regard. That's right. You got it.
Absolutely. So what can City Council do to offer more property tax relief to people, particularly people who don't qualify for existing Wake County relief programs?
Following what the Madam Mayor said, we have to advocate on behalf of the citizens of Raleigh. That is a county issue. And so there's nothing we will be able to do at city level other than advocacy work. So in order to be a proper advocate, you have to actually have humility for what the people are facing so that you can adequately fight on their behalf and to not give up that fight, be it at the county level, state level, or the General Assembly. So as mayor of Raleigh, I will continue to be the advocate and activist if needed to be able to fight for the citizens and the residents of Raleigh.
All right, hold on to that mic, but Mayor Baldwin, we start with you now. How can you work with developers who don't want to build affordable housing because it doesn't make them the maximum profit?
So, another state legislative issue. We cannot make a developer put in affordable housing. That is called inclusionary zoning, and it's illegal in North Carolina. So the best thing we can do is work with them during rezonings, try to enhance their understanding, but even more, work with our Home Builders Association So they're not just building million-dollar mansions, but they're also building homes that people can afford. So that would be cottage courts, smaller homes. They're usually about 6 to a dozen on a piece of land. They share a common yard, and it really does create community. Tiny homes is another option. Townhomes. We could not build townhomes in 80% of our city until this county city council changed that rule. Now we can build them in more places. So it's really about encouraging housing choice.
So again, that's more advocacy work that we would do at the city level. However, we do have the ability to control what developers do come. So we can work with developers in the homeowner associations, but we can also choose who we allow to come and buy our land and our property. So as an advocate of the people, then we need to select carefully those who will truly be for the people and what we need. Because to continue to allow developers to come in that have no concept of what we need. Right now, we have a surplus for housing for people with 80% AMI. But there's a great deficit for the people in Raleigh because the majority of us are 60 or below. So the advocacy work and controlling who comes into our city will be key.
As mayor, the most important constituent is the voter, is the resident. So for me, my number one decision around affordability is going to lean on the side of residents. So for me, number one, there's something called a development plan. That's where you're allowed to create some frameworks, some guardrails, so that you guide the conversation in which what can and cannot be developed. Number two, city-owned land gives the city more leverage to make affordable units. And so you can activate the assets that the city already controls to make sure that you produce and you engage in a more affordable way. So there are several other ways in which we can advocate on the side of residents so that their quality of life is improved or sustained.
All right, Mayor Gillihan, or you've already got one. This question starts with you, Ms. Cohen.
Okay.
Do you think the council gave adequate notice to the public regarding implementation of missing middle zoning changes? And also then, would you revise, repeal, or continue missing middle 1.0 and 2.0? Would you continue those as they exist now?
Absolutely, they did not give any proper notice. Matter of fact, this current council and mayor shut the city and the people out of the room. So there wasn't a conversation to be had, to be able to speak or vote on what the missing middle parts were in our city. So one thing that I would strongly do is reopen the doors back to the people, and so that we can adequately support and bring in what our city needs and not what we think our city should.
this affordability. And every month since then, they've been showing me where those units that we looked at are gone. So we need to fight for existing missing middle just as hard as we fight for and promote new missing middle.
Mayor, your turn.
So we went through a year-long process that involved outreach from our planning department. Also, we created a portal to get feedback. I think we had over 1,800 responses to that. We had this go through the planning commission. We also held a public hearing before city council. So we followed a process that we always follow whenever we do a text change or a zoning change. And it lasted over a year. Missing middle is really about ensuring that we do exactly what we just suggested, that we are allowed to keep duplexes, triplexes, and quads in our city. Under the old law, if you knock down a duplex, you couldn't rebuild a duplex. As I said, you couldn't build a townhome, which is usually more affordable in 80% of our cities. Missing middle housing is addressed to help provide housing choice in our community.
All right, just real quickly, each of you, would you continue the program as it exists now? If you're able to give a yes or no, we'll start with you, Mayor.
Yeah, so what we are doing, residents have requested that we look at requiring a development, that the developer meet with the community. So that's something we are looking at right now. We have our planning department reviewing that. Planning department is also going to do an outreach program, an education program focused on what missing middle housing is and why it's important, why we enacted this. This is something that, quite frankly, is a national best practice, and the Biden administration is stressing this.
And Ms. Scoville, would you continue the program as it exists?
Not as it exists.
Mr. Ruth?
There's a need to increase the maximum feedback from voters. So we're seeing sort of a desire for engagement at R4, but we're not seeing a desire for community engagement at R6 and 10. Then we need to, at R4, implement a way in which community can have feedback on those development decisions. So the modification I would make is look at where we're seeing the most frustration from residents and implement additional engagement so that they can have input at that level in terms of...
All right, we're sticking with you. I'm going to move to an infrastructure question here. What infrastructure improvements are needed to address the population growth anticipated in the city, particularly if zoning changes do allow for more density?
Yeah, so I want to first say that our transportation infrastructure definitely needs further investment. We're seeing areas like North Hills, other areas where we're seeing increase in population growth, but we're not seeing the same investment in the transportation structure that allows people to travel safely in those particular areas. But also, what's significant is the letter that our former mayor wrote, Mayor Nancy McFarland. She wrote a beautiful letter, actually, showing how we should implement gentle density. Matter of fact, our letter said that the tools were already in place to handle gentle density so that neighborhoods do not have to worry about 40 stories going up without a scale down to single family housing. And so there are things in place, if implemented well, that will allow for us to sort of make the right infrastructure modification.
All right, Mayor, your turn next, and then Ms. Copeland.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I served on the Go Triangle Board for 9 years. We have been working on the Wake County Transit Plan since it was approved by the voters in 2016. I was an advocate for that and worked pretty hard to get that passed. That will fund bus rapid transit. We have 4 proposed lines: New Bern Avenue, which starts construction next year, Western Boulevard, South Wilmington Street, and also parts of Capitol Boulevard. The second piece of that is commuter rail, and we just went on a tour on Thursday with the Regional Transportation Alliance and with our partners in Durham and Cary and elsewhere, talking about how we can move forward on commuter rail. We also are looking at micro-mobility that will get people to places the last mile. So those who are transit riders will be more convenient to get to their destinations easier. And also bike ped is really important in safety. So that's our focus.
All right, Ms. Copeland?
Yes, so the transportation with infrastructure, the commuter rail is something we absolutely need to be able to open up the job pool for families to not only have to come or work in Raleigh, we can connect. Raleigh is the state capital. We should be the leaders, not the followers. However, bringing it back into home, the bus rapid transit proposal that's going to go down New Bern Avenue will only gentrify that area and raise the taxes in those properties for people who are already struggling to stay in that area. So that is an issue. However, like Terrence stated, in the North Hills area, they're building up, but there's no adequate transportation in that area. So being able to prioritize where we actually put those infrastructures is going to be key. But we also once had a cat connector in Raleigh. We should get that back.
All right, hold on to that mic, but Mayor Baldwin, we start with you on this one. How does the work from home movement change things for downtown Raleigh, and what steps should the city take in response?
Well, I think a couple of things. First off, one thing we learned during COVID is that we were too reliant on our businesses and their employees to make our downtown active. So one of the things we're focused on is bringing more residential downtown and bringing more people downtown. So, for instance, city-owned land around Moore Square, we have issued an RFP for that. We've asked for affordable housing to be included. We got 4 responses from people. That's one way we can use city-owned land to increase affordability, but also increase residential. We've also worked closely with the Downtown Raleigh Alliance to activate Moore Square, to have fun things to do, to bring people downtown. Everything from a soccer field, which has brought out a lot of people, and they're having a good time with that, to movies. My time's up. I could go on forever.
All right, Ms. Copeland.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, absolutely. How does the work from home movement change things for downtown Raleigh, and what steps should the city take in response?
I think the city should work with more Wi-Fi companies to give us city access to Wi-Fi while downtown. And as the mayor stated, we do have city land down there that they're planning to put condos on. It's not going to be affordable for the homeless people that's living in the square right now, but that's what we do need. So we do need affordable housing to go around our downtown area and to bring more people down there. But it should be more for those who are sleeping in our parks and our bus stations. And we do have organizations that are providing resources for our homeless community and others down there in that area. And as a city, we should lead that, and it's mandatory right now.
So the stay-at-home sort of work movement really has forced us to adjust downtown. You've seen where significant major staple restaurants have closed, like Garden. You've seen where the foot traffic has decreased in downtown. You've seen where it's difficult for small businesses to thrive. I've talked to the hospitality department and field, and they're having a very difficult time in our downtown core. I know people who put on conventions, and they're having a hard time finding activities and excitement for individuals who are coming to conferences in downtown. So it has impacted our downtown tremendously in terms of the movement of dollars to support the local and small businesses that have yet to recover from 2020.
All right, we start with Ms. Copeland on this next question. Other cities and counties in North Carolina have explored reparations in various forms. Do you support reparations for descendants of people who were enslaved?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Unfortunately, at the city level, we wouldn't be able to be the ones to provide the reparations. But once again, a true advocate that is willing to be a fighter and boots on the ground.
Yes.
Because as you can see, I am a descendant of a slave. So of course, we need that and we deserve that. But more so, we need a fair shot. We're not asking for what anybody else has. We're only asking for a fair shot to have it ourselves. And so I would definitely stand for that. And I will support, fight, march, scream, holler, yell. All I ask is that y'all join me when I go.
All right, Mr. Rick?
I think before you even get to that question, you have to be willing to have an honest story about Raleigh. And what did that story mean? And for me, I see several groups bumbling around in their own sort of network trying to tell that story well.
Yes.
But before you can even get to reparations, you have to understand the journey, the story, the struggle, and then also the triumph. And I don't think we've told that story as of yet.
All right, you want to give a yes or no answer though on that?
When I announced that the group out of Asheville that already sent me a petition, and that petition out of Asheville was sent to the governor. So for us as a city, why are we leading on that? And why are other areas leading? If we want to be the capital, why are we leading on that conversation? And so for me, I think Raleigh should be leading on that conversation.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, so as we said, that's a role, again, we have the legislature that we need to deal with. One of the things that we did right after the whole incident happened with George Floyd, the murder, I should say, we partnered with Shell University and their Center for Racial and Social Justice, and they gave us a 10-point plan that we could do. We as a city, again, not depending on anybody else, but we as a city, how we could focus on criminal justice reform, affordable housing, zoning reform, transit, mental health issues, education and workforce development. Those are the things that we as a city need to be focused on. And I'm happy to talk to our lobbyist to see if there is a way through. But I don't know enough about the possibilities to say yes or no. But what I do know is we have work to do and we're doing it.
Can I?
Well, I'd like to move on to another question. I feel like all three of you have made your positions clear here, if you don't mind. This one, we'll start with Mr. Rue. What are your plans to tackle the public safety staffing issues in the Raleigh Police Department, Raleigh Fire Department, and emergency communications?
Yeah, because resources are limited, I think you have to make a choice. And I think the chief of police put together a budget, at least for the police department, to make sure that they reinvest in our senior officers so that we don't lose some of our more seasoned officers. However, we move forward with a budget that would incentivize new recruitment for vacancies. And so we are looking at a potential trend where we will lose some of our seasoned officers because the salary that new officers entering in are so close to. But also, I think there's a way in which we can make our processes more efficient. What does it mean to use our 800 officers more efficiently for roughly 500,000 residents? And what does it mean to use our fire department more efficiently in reference to, again, 500,000 residents? And I think at this point, we need reform in terms of how we use law enforcement and fire department with the lack of jobs that we're seeing filled in the department.
So what we have focused on is increasing officer salaries and also minimums and maximums. We are focused on senior officers to ensure that senior people, we don't train them and then they leave and go somewhere else. We are also recruiting throughout the country now. We have, if one of our officers recommend somebody and they are hired, they actually get a $5,000 bonus. That's a huge incentive. We are also probably in October going to approve retention bonuses for police and emergency communications. Our fire department is not suffering from a massive loss of people. In fact, we have a new recruitment class in. We've just hired a number of mayoral. They will be fine. What we need to do, though, is focus on how we can bring more police officers in. Let's face it, it's hard to be a police officer right now, but we are doing what we can with salary and outreach to ensure that they feel appreciated and valued.
Well, the majority of Raleigh's budget goes to the police department. So one thing we will need to do is an audit to figure out where those funds are going. Because there's money given, and at $5,000 a year, there's an increase to police, the budget for the police. But yet they are underpaid. And I don't understand why, so we will need to know where the money is going. Like she stated, Mayor Baldwin, I'm sorry for that. The fire department, they deserve raises as well, and they have continuously asked this council for their raises that was not implemented. But then is we are working for them, so they're coming, and there's a connection with WakeTech to develop more. But as far as Raleigh budget and the fire, the police, we do need better officers, but we also need to know how the money is being used that is already in place.
All right, Mayor Baldwin, we're coming to you here. A question about elections and influence. What do you think about the influence of big real estate developers on the city council? Should donations by developers be limited by ordinance or by law?
You know, this is an interesting question. So, there are former councilors who lost in the last election who received money from a developer. He and his wife maxed out to them. And somehow that was okay. But if John King gives people money, it's not. So why are we treating one developer different from others or making allegations? I don't
work for the people.
Excuse me.
Just let her answer the questions, or let everybody answer the questions. And you do with the information you get from it as well.
So for me, the bottom line is that, you know, if you are making...
We understand, everybody's got an opinion, and we just hear what we're here to hear.
Don't interrupt people. Sure. Bottom line.
So if you are able to raise money, that's part of what you do when you run for office. I mean, that's part of it. And the bottom line is, that doesn't buy a vote. And we look at every case that comes before us with a critical eye. Yes, we do. And we work hard with our planning staff and our planning commission to bring forward reasonable and sustainable development. So no, that's not something I would support, and for all the reasons cited.
Ms. Cope? Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about the influence of big real estate developers, what the influence they have on the city council, and should donations be limited by ordinance or law?
I don't think they should be limited, but I think we do need to pay attention to those who are bought by the developers. And it's not hard to look in our city and see why the developers are investing in certain people. They get the best interest out of the city, they get the best profits, and they're the ones that benefit. So I definitely don't support developers giving funding because, I mean, it leads to bad things later, but people are allowed to receive money from whomever is qualified to donate. So I wouldn't do away with it, but I think it helps us pay attention to what we need to see.
Mr. Ruth?
My campaign has literally been a grassroots campaign from day one. We have gone to communities that have traditionally been unheard. We have gone to communities that have traditionally been unseen. We have talked to voter base that have been ignored for many centuries, like the unhoused. And our donations represent that same action. So for us, we are actually living out the answer to this question, both in where we have gone and the money in which we have received. And so for me, who you give attention to is your constituent. And I've given attention from day one to residents and voters all across the city.
All right, we're going to start with Ms. Copenmere. You've already got one. What do you think are acceptable and effective forms of community engagement?
Acceptable and effective is, first of all, being present. Being present and being tangible in the community. As someone who's constantly in the community, I can use myself as an example. My phone numbers work, my emails, I respond. I have been the only candidate that has showed up to all the forums that time has allowed, no matter what the social status or the economic status was. And to be someone, be the leader of the city, but not know who your people are or what your people need. Being able to speak to you, to help you. If you're 6 feet tall and I give you a 5-foot house, you'll be happy if you're homeless until your back start hurting. So a blessing should not be a burden. So to be present and help people where they need it, the only way you can do that is if you're listening, you're communicating, and they're able to speak. So I will be present.
I believe in the idea of smart governance. Smart governance says you need to maximize the feedback from voters, from residents. Maximize. Not a minimum threshold. Not just let's build an infrastructure that allows us to check the box off, but to maximize engagement. So right now in the city, the weight of engagement is on the voter. If they do not attend the meeting, they're unseen and unheard. If they don't talk in 60 seconds, they're unseen and unheard. And so right now, as a researcher, the weight of engagement is actually on the researcher to make sure that they're hearing from the right sample size so that they can generalize to a larger population. That weight should be on the council. That weight should be on the mayor. That weight should be on the candidates. And right now, residents feel unseen and unheard.
So we elevated our community engagement department. We created a department. We're hiring additional people. And we just got a report from them on the work that they are doing. It is phenomenal. They are providing support to a number of different departments. I'll give you some examples of what they've done. They've worked on a Raleigh Planning Academy. They have worked on Raleigh's Black Heritage and Historic Places. They've worked on the Chavis, Dix Park Strollway, and South Park Heritage Walk. Stormwater project prioritization, the 5 Points Carter study, tree planting and heat equity, sidewalk petition program. They have done all this amazing outreach. We have formed a community engagement board. They are doing a community connector program where they're hiring part-time people to connect to the community, and a community engagement vehicle, so they're actually going out to the community and meeting people where they are.
All right, this one is for Mr. Ruth, and we have 3 questions left, including this one, so we're getting to the note cards very soon. What will you do to help increase public transportation infrastructure, such as light rail, bus service, and bicycle accessibility?
One, I think we hear often from the mayor about commuter rail. Commuter rail is something that's actually needed, but we need to make sure that we are engaging in commuter rail with our regional partners. One city can't pay for a rail system by itself. And we have to have the buy-in of the additional Durham, Chatham County, et cetera. And if we do not leverage the growth of our tax base to actually pay for sustainability and responsibility, I think we will actually be leading irresponsibly in the region around commuter rail. I think we need to evaluate where our bus stops are, because even though it's free, we're not seeing a hike in usage. And I think the bus stops will actually allow for us to remove some of the cars that are currently on our streets. And I have to stop.
So as I mentioned, we are moving forward on the Wake County Transit Plan, which was approved by the voters, and also a house and sales tax was approved at that time. That is the funding that is going toward supporting bus rapid transit, in addition to commuter rail. But what we're also doing is forming partnerships with the federal government. We're working very closely with US DOT, also another department, the Federal Railroad Association. They have given us $1.5 million so far to bring the S-Line here. And the S-Line would connect Richmond to Raleigh, high-speed rail, but it would also connect our more rural and suburban counties to Raleigh. So that's another alternative. So commuter rail, though, as I mentioned, I was with all of our partners. We had 90 people on this tour the other day. Great conversations about how we move commuter rail forward.
All right, Ms. Cohen.
Well, we already have railroads in place that we can be utilizing that have not been utilized. So as Terrence stated, bringing commuter rail and responsibly using them with the finances to put behind it. So many citizens and residents of Raleigh have moved out of Raleigh, but yet still work here. And traveling, the majority of the fatalities happens in a car accident during business commuting time. So if we can provide more shared transportation that will allow people to be able to adequately ride the bus within a timely manner, and be able to go further at a lesser cost and a more safer way. Commuter rail is absolutely something needed, and the bus station or bus stops.
All right, Mayor, this one starts with you. It's another transit question, specifically on bicycles. Would you continue to support and advance the 10-year Bike Raleigh plan that was approved in 2016 for bike accessibility? Do you still see the Bike Raleigh plan as a 10-year plan, as in, by which I mean, do you expect all the priorities in the plan to be completed by 2026?
So there are a couple of things going on with that. First off, the bike plan also includes greenways. We have a parks bond that includes improvements and creation of greenways, so that is key. But also, our transportation department has really put a focus on bike ped safety and ensuring that we do have adequate infrastructure. So that is happening as we speak throughout the city, and yes, I'm totally committed to that.
I do think that will be utilized by 2026. However, the park bond that was spoke of with the greenways is not for the benefit of the people. It have a lot of special interests involved in it, and the park bond is enough. But I will absolutely say that the biking system and all that is working can be utilized, and it can be effective, especially by 2026.
I am a person that actually benefit from this plan. I actually live close enough to bike to NC State. But for me, what I think is significant is active transportation. If you drive down Hillsborough during active hours of NC State when students are in school, You're going to see scooters, you're going to see bikes, you're going to see wheelchairs, you're going to see canes, you're going to see buses. You're going to see a very vibrant transportation ecosystem. I would love to see that beyond just NC State campus. And that's really the picture that I think we should move towards.
All right, one more question, then we get to the audience questions, I believe. This one, Ms. Copeland, you're already ready. Here we go.
We told you we had.
Thank you. I needed sometimes, I ain't gonna lie. How do you propose to keep public spaces in the new social district clean? Should Raleigh be moving from single garbage cans to dual or triple stream waste stations out in public, like some other municipalities have done to reduce waste going into the landfills?
Yes, yes, I do. I think we should have multiple containers available with the adequate employee payment, though. You know, just not putting someone on that duty and not adequately paying them for the entertainment of the city. So I definitely think we should have better composition in that area with multiple cans and even with the recycling cans. So yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How do you propose to keep public spaces in the new social district clean? Should Raleigh be moving from single garbage cans to dual or triple stream waste stations like other municipalities to reduce adding to the landfill? So we've got a two-part question there. One, how do you keep the downtown area essentially clean? And then two, specifically yes or no on the triple waste stations as opposed to just garbage cans?
Yeah, so there is a body of work that supports sort of waste stations versus garbage cans, multiple garbage cans located everywhere. But I do think that the social district is hard to enforce restaurants or individuals to sort of take care of that particular job obligation, keep it clean. I do think, however, the philosophy around the way in which we want residents to care for that area, who is our target audience that we want to come and participate in the social district, who is our target audience in terms of those who will be responsible for the cleanup or the maintenance of that social district. I think a key part of that should be how do we make sure that this is a enjoyable place, not just for those who don't drink, but those who just want to come and enjoy that space.
Our staff is looking at revamping our cleanliness program for downtown as we speak. We recently had, several months ago, the chief and others had a meeting with the downtown business owners, and that was one of the top priorities was how do we address cleanliness and waste. So that is being worked on right now. I expect that we will have some recommendations coming back to us.
All right, and the questions from the audience are ready. I'm ready for that also. I've also got some, we had overflow, so I have more questions in KP. I'll do my favorite one from the overflow. I think this is a simple yes or no. Many other cities, such as Charlotte, have long had a 311 number residents can use to reach any department rather than having to search for the phone number to the department. Yes or no, should Raleigh provide this? And I believe, Mr. Ruth, we start with you.
Yes to a centralized way in which you plug into the city, but no to a phone number being the only way.
All right.
Yes, I've been asking for this for the past year and a half. We have a group that has put together studying it, studying the implications. What they don't want to do is install something and then have it not adequately staffed or financed. So that is being worked on, but I think that would be a great help, especially to, I talked to a lot of seniors who said they don't know how to access City Hall. They don't go to a website. They're like, how can we get this information? And I think not only would it help seniors, but it would also help a lot of people more readily connect with our city. And I think that should go along with our community engagement efforts.
All right, Ms. Copeland.
Well, we have a 211 that already exists for you to call and get information on various resources and
I think
things.
that's a United Way number, and I'll stand to be corrected if I'm...
Yeah, you can call and get anything, even for.
I think the idea here is specifically to connect people to city government departments and services.
Okay, so I wouldn't support that number alone. And the reason why I brought up the 211 is because if you've ever used that, it's just a circle. You get sent to somebody who send you to somebody who send you to somebody, and it's not effective. So that was my reference to that number. But a number alone, no. We can utilize other things to be easily accessible for our government, other than a phone number.
All right, candidates, thank you. Take a short breath here, and then we're going to get into the audience questions. What do we got here? Let's start with that one. Let's do a tax question. I don't think we've had a lot of those. Ms. Coleman, this starts with you. What would you do to pay firefighters a fair wage and encourage veteran firefighters to stay?
I think a complete audit of the budget is necessary. I'm definitely for the increase of pay for any of our first responders on all levels. But to utilize what our budget is and where the money is going, and to retain veteran firefighters, there should be some form of an incentive program for them. So to utilize our budget currently and give increases with incentives.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What would you do to pay firefighters a fair wage and encourage veteran firefighters to stay?
One, I think we should look at comparative salaries at similar sized cities across the country. Number two, actually speak to the firefighters themselves. I've had a chance to engage and hear their frustrations around salary. So what does it mean? What would be a number? Because we don't want to have to visit this question every year. So what would be a number that they think would be sufficient to the very difficult but important job that they do in our city? And so I think those two are our first two steps to really engage in this journey.
All right, Mayor.
So we do conduct surveys of what others make for police and fire. That's how we set our salaries. So that has been done. What we have told police and firefighters, we looked at what we could do from a budget standpoint this year. There was a 2-cent tax increase. We gave them 5% increases. We also changed the minimum and maximum of what people can make. So right now what we're looking at is compression and making sure people don't leapfrog when that minimum and maximum is set. So what you don't want to have happen is new people come in and they're making more money than a senior officer. So those have all been studied. The police chief is actually making adjustments on that to prevent compression, and I'm sure that the fire chief is doing the same.
And just for everybody at home, compression is, I think you explained it, but it's where you have a salary schedule, and if you try to raise the starting salaries, all of a sudden career officers are making essentially the same as someone who's quite new, and it causes morale problems. People get upset. All right, Mayor, we're sticking with you on this one. How does this park bond help the median income of, I think the idea is, how does it help median in neighbors with a median income, the average?
Well, first off, the parks bond really was built with an equity lens. So it's $275 million, but $105 million is dedicated to 3 community projects in District C, which has historically been underrepresented and underinvested in. But we also are looking at other ways throughout the city. So what we try to do is put 20 parks for renovate community centers throughout the city, so everybody has a park that they can go to. Everybody has a community center they feel safe at. Every kid has a place to play. So 20 parks all throughout the city, equity lens. I think this benefits all of us. If we learned anything during COVID, parks were our salvation.
Let's go.
Can you restate that question?
Absolutely. How does the park fund help people with a median? It says a median income of $27,000, but I think the idea is how does this help average and below average neighborhoods by salary, of course, as well.
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't. The park bond is for this, phase 2 of changes, a tennis court in Biltmore Hills, and the revitalization of Road Community Center. We don't need a new park on the same street that we have Chambers and Pullen Park. When we have Lions Park, Roberts Park, Apollo Heights Park, that doesn't have adequate, Elijah Pool Park, that doesn't have adequate outside bathrooms for the public, that does not have outside lighting, we still have sand in Worthdale Park that was recently renovated, but we still have dirty sand. And when razor blades was put in sand. And so this park bond is not for the people. It is for a future Raleigh, but we have to focus on our present and not what we need in the future. Because without our present, the future doesn't exist.
A city planner once told me that you can tell the quality of the city or the quality of the neighborhood by the quality of the park. And for several generations, there's been communities in underrepresented or underinvested sections of our city that haven't had that quality of park. I believe this bond will help provide some resources to those parks. And I believe that parks are necessary for a quality of life, especially when density is the next wave that this city has to journey through. And so for me, that's the way in which this park attempts to reach those who are in underrepresented communities. But again, the quality of the park often tells you the quality of that community or the quality of that city.
All right, Ms. Copeland, we'll start with you on this one. How would you use your position to fight climate change?
Well, climate injustice across the board. Crabtree Valley Mall is under flooding. It's a flooding zone. And just yesterday alone should have showed us what the injustice to our environment and our climate is doing with that hurricane that came through. And to ride through the city last night and see so many areas and roads flooded or large patches of water coming out of our sewers, being able to do shared transportation to curb what gases are going in our atmosphere, being able to work in our environmental with the water aspects of it, those are all things that the city has the ability to work on. And with this climate change, we as a people have to lead this. We can't wait for others to do it.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how would you use your position to fight climate change?
Yeah, so there's several things. It goes back again to the story narrative that we told. We can tell a story about poverty through where we see environmental injustice, and we can tell the story about racism through where we see environmental injustice. And I think we need to revisit those stories to make sure that we're taking care of investing in those communities that have already lived with environmental and climate change crisis prior to now. Now I hear that we are now linking new development with modifications or changes or requirements for stormwater runoff, etc. But if you talk to members of St. Ambrose, their church floods all the time. And where are they located? In communities that historically been uninvested in.
All right. Mayor, I don't believe we've heard from you yet on that one. Forgive me if I lose track.
So first, the city currently has a community climate action plan, which calls for reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. We are also transitioning to a fleet of alternative fuel vehicles and electric buses. We're requiring that buildings be built with more energy efficiency. And we just started a new program called Solarize the Triangle, and people can get reduced, well, they can purchase solar panels and others that are reduced price, which is one way we can encourage everybody to get involved in this. But one thing that we can do is create more density in walkable neighborhoods. If you can walk somewhere, you're not riding in your car. It's also healthier, and it's better for the environment. So having more density on transit corridors is key.
All right, Mr. Root, we start with you. We're going back to housing again. In 2019, all city council candidates campaigned on the promise of affordable housing. Yet the number of people experiencing homelessness increased under this council's leadership. How will you prioritize building housing for people with low incomes?
Yeah, a very good question. And for me, I think we need to invest in, or at least move forward with, an affordable housing overlay that will give incentives to development to build affordable units. We are talking about the BRT at the moment. I've talked to members in Charlotte, and they said the moment their bus rapid transit was created, and again, bus rapid transit is already in a neighborhood that needs affordable housing. They said that they've seen the increase in housing. So we're actually building infrastructure that's going to cause for housing to increase in areas that need affordable housing the most. And it's going to end in Method, an area that actually needs affordable housing the most. And we're making decisions that's actually causing those who are in communities that's most cost burdened to actually have to deal with increases in affordable housing. So affordable housing overlay will allow for us to at least try to counteract some of the decisions that have already caused members to do so.
So as I said earlier, since 2016, we have invested $90 million as a city in affordable housing. We're currently working on at least 3,910 units. They're either constructed or under construction. That is 30 different communities throughout the city. Total investment is $702 million, which is a significant investment throughout the city. But one of the things I do want to say is it's really important addressing homelessness to work with the county. They are the lead agency on human services and social services. In fact, we just had a committee meeting, Safe Fiber and Healthy Committee meeting the other day, where we asked the county to come and update us on where we are on day shelters and other types of housing that we need. A study is supposed to be done starting in October. They're going to release an RFP, but we have to work in partnership with them to make sure this happens.
All right, Ms. Coe. Absolutely. In 2019, city council candidates campaigned on the promise of affordable housing, yet the number of people experiencing homelessness increased under this council's leadership. How will you prioritize building housing for people with low incomes?
So to utilize city-owned land, as vice chair of the Health and Human Services Board, I am a part of that planning committee, and we are working on things to curb that. However, the leading for the city is being able to develop housing that is affordable to those who are living here, not who we're trying to pull here. So to be able to cater to houses according to our living wage. Within the pandemic, housing increased 35% in amount, but homeless rapidly increased as well. And although the county does provide resources for economic services, the city could have led and did things that we should do. And under my leadership, we will buy more than one hotel to put homeless in.
Mayor, this one starts with you. My apologies, did we skip you? I believe you answered that one first. My confidence is shaken now.
We got you, though.
Thank you. We've talked a good bit here, various candidates have about increasing salaries. If you wanted to increase salaries, what budget item would you cut to do that? Or what tax increase would you implement to fund it?
Well, as I said, this year we had a 2-cent tax increase, primarily to give city employees raises. We said it was the year of the employee. Everybody had a tough time going through COVID, working at home, getting people back to work. So that was a tax increase, but we felt it was important to do because we have to take care of our city employees. We need them to be on board. We need them to provide services. And, let's face it, we're suffering because private sector can come and they're scooping people up. And so the only way that we can continue to do that, as I said before, is show appreciation, show them that they're valued, make sure they know that we are giving them the raises that they deserve, but also saying thank you, because they do perform an incredible service to our residents.
Yes, no, or maybe though, over the next 2-year term, would you expect any other tax increases?
We've already said we're going to increase police and fire and first responder pay.
So going forward, there probably would be an additional tax increase to fund that.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Copeland, I'll repeat the question. All candidates, or most candidates, have talked about increasing salaries. What budget item would you cut to do that? Or what tax increase would you implement to fund it?
One of the things that I would do away with to fund the increase for livable wages will be the park bond. The park bond, for me, is the one thing that we absolutely do not need. It is not a necessity in our everyday lives. We have awesome parks in Raleigh. We need to invest in them, but we can do away with that. That's not something that will affect anyone else's way of life. So to do away with that bond and implement it in the people's lives where we can best utilize those funds is what I would cut.
Would you expect the taxes need to raise beyond what's already planned to fund salaries that you think are appropriate?
Within the next 2 years, no.
Ms. Ruth?
My desire is to make Raleigh affordable. And so our last result will be to continue to increase taxes, and we talked about that all day today. But there are ways in which we can creatively share talent with some of the amazing industries we have in our city. One is rather than having us versus these major corporations, I've had meetings with top tech companies, top leading industries, and they said, what does it mean for us to share talent? What does it mean for us to actually pay for a portion of that person's FTE? And so what does it mean for us to creatively think through ways in which, rather than being in competition, which we can't compete with some of these industries that are paying tremendous salaries, what does it mean for us to share talent, especially if we're talking about people working remotely? What does it mean for us to work together and actually share that talent so that we're creating a new talent pipeline, but we're also receiving some of the best talent in the city?
All right, Ms. Copeland, we'll start with you on this new question here. What is Raleigh doing that other cities could learn from, and conversely, what could Raleigh do better?
What are we doing that other cities could learn from?
Correct, and then also what can we do better?
What we can do better is be more inclusive to our people, engaging our people. Raleigh is, right now, in my opinion, is really focused on the social life. But people are suffering in their everyday life. And I wouldn't want to promote a city that encourages a bunch of play when lives are being lost and moms and dads are suffering from mental illness like never before because they can't figure it out and they're not making their way. So I would say what we can do better is engage our people and become more resourceful at the level that we as the people need. I really don't know what we're doing better than the other cities, because we're hurting that city totally.
All right. Mr. Root?
I think we have a long history of just growing. Most cities don't have that history. Most cities don't have a history of continuous growth. We have been growing for a very long time. And we have been doing that well for a very long time. Since 2019, we have severed that connection to those who are coming and those who are here. And that's where we need to improve. We need to allow people to touch their city again. We need to allow for people to be seen and heard by their city again. But the growth, there are many cities across this country that will want the growth that we're seeing right now. So now it's up to us to manage that growth well.
So what we're doing well, changes in the zoning code. I've had mayors from throughout the country reach out to me, asking me how we have done that, how we've incorporated this in middle housing. They say, yes, it is a national best practice. How have you done that? And, and how can you help us with that? What advice would you have for us? The second thing I think we're doing well is preparing for our future. We are growing. We're growing significantly. We're the third fastest growing city in the country. So the plans that we have laid out for transit, I don't want to end up like Austin, Texas, where you have a 2-hour wait during peak hours to get anywhere from the airport. That's not who we want to be. But if we don't act now, that's who we will be. So making those choices to ensure we have adequate housing and infrastructure, I think we're on the right track.
All right, Ms. Ruth, we start with you on this one. How would you define affordable housing? And the question doesn't say to put a price tag on it, but I think it's appropriate to ask for a range of what makes a house or a home affordable.
Yeah, usually when you hear this conversation, it's actually defined by HUD. So they actually give an AMI percentage based on the average income in your particular area. So AMI, average median income, is a range. So it's a percentage. So it moves based on the average salary in that particular area. And so 30% below, 50% below, 80%, et cetera. But that definition is actually defined by HUD itself.
All right, Mayor?
That is accurate. HUD does define the 30%, the 50 to 60%, and the 80%, and that is how affordable housing is defined. However, one of the things that we've done is really focusing, again, on housing choice, because not everybody can afford a 3,000 square foot house. So allowing different types of housing to be built, whether it's tiny homes, cottage courts, townhomes, actually gives us a better shot at providing more housing affordability, more housing supply, and more adequate resources to our residents. So it's not an either or, it's an either. Will you agree?
Absolutely. How do you define affordable housing?
Not paying more than 30% of your cost of living on housing. And that is a range that everybody doesn't meet at the same level. I've lived in affordable housing. Me and my neighbor was in that type of apartment, but we were not paying the same amount of rent because affordable is affordable according to us and our income. So what we need in the city, and I've stated several times, according to the livable wage of our city and what people are earning is what affordable should be.
All right, Mayor, we start with you on this one. Corporate investor-driven purchases of existing single-family homes and apartment buildings has escalated rapidly and has turned formerly affordable housing into profit generators for investors. This further decreases the available supply of affordable homes. What can the city do to constrain corporate buyers?
I'm not sure that we can do anything. However, what we have done is we have partnered with Wake County on we have created a group of funding that will allow us to purchase those affordable communities. We just approved $2 million for CASA to do just that. So this housing affordability fund that we have created with the county is going to allow us to purchase this instead of a private investor purchasing it. The other thing we've done is we're working with realtors to identify what some of these communities look like and how we can have first dibs. Often what happens is they will sell to a private developer because it's easier, but if this comes to us and we're knowledgeable and we can move forward, that is key, and we're working on that right now.
Absolutely, because corporate investor-driven purchases of existing homes and apartments has escalated rapidly and turned formerly affordable housing into profit generators for those investors. This further decreases the available supply of affordable homes. What can the city do to constrain corporate buyers?
Really working with the county as far as providing the resources, but also those that are coming to get permits in the city to purchase land and to build, being able to work with those that are here for the people that are here. We can form partnerships with developers. You know, all developers are not bad, even some that are corporate, but those who are not doesn't have the interest of the people that they're portraying to serve will be a way of minimizing how corporate companies come in and purchase up our land and develop.
I've been in communities where, not too far from here actually, where the whole community was purchased by a company out in out on the west coast. And I've seen where they had to call for somebody to cut the grass, they had to call California. I've actually been in a community meeting where that was the case. There's a tracking system that can be used, it's used in Wake County actually, that will allow for you to know when an affordable unit is about to come on the market. It allows for you to act and to be aggressive around affordable units that are becoming available. HUD uses a similar system. That's how they know where and what particular homes are going to become available. That's how they keep their count. We need a data-driven strategy to compete with a market that's moving aggressively and they're moving through data. And right now, we're not. And what does it mean to recruit and foster a relationship with those in those communities so that we understand the family, the needs, the wants. But again, we need a tracking system that allows for us to act with more pace.
And just to be clear, you're suggesting that the city then purchase who would buy it once the tracking system flags the home?
Well, even if the city is prepared or not prepared to track it, we can mobilize a network both in the county and the city and with municipalities.
Some sort of partnership. Ms. Copeland, we start with you on this one. How would you vote on a project that is objectively good for the city but draws strong vocal opposition from a small and vocal minority?
Well, community engagement will allow for education. It would allow for us to work with the people. If it's for the betterment and it's not just profitable for the city, that would be the difference. And understanding and leadership, you're not going to always do what is pleasing to those that sit by you, with you, around you, or whatever. However, a healthy conversation, agreeing to disagree, but to educate on what it is that is needed and why would be the best. So I can't say that I would ever vote against or for something that would be better for the city and not the people, but I will promise to communicate and educate and have that difficult conversation so that we can move forward.
I think part of any major decision that will drive controversy, even if it's in the health of the city, must be connected to a tour that goes around and listens to residents so that they can be educated. Matter of fact, in 2017, Wake County put out an affordable housing plan. In that plan, part of it was to fund a community education program. This is what affordable housing is. This is what AMI is. This is what it means to have $80 million. This is what it means that for that $80 million to be in this market. So we need to, one, when a decision like that is coming down the pipeline, I've been a part of teams where they knew we need to get on front of this issue and start listening and speaking with our constituents so that they understand where our decision is coming from.
I'll give you a great example of a community working together to come to a resolution, and that's Save Seaboard Station. We actually had a very lengthy community engagement process and also worked with the developer, but also worked with the community. We worked together. At the end, everybody agreed. And that's because people were respectful, they listened, and they acted. But I will tell you this, I sat on council for 10 years. I think some of the most contentious rezoning cases involved affordable housing. And, you know, people did not want that, those people, that's what they said, in their neighborhoods. I voted for that because that is better for the city. And I can give you some examples, and I've just been told to stop.
All right, we're going to do 2 or 3 more questions, and then everybody gets a minute closing statements as the hour approaches. Mr. Root, we start with you on this one. Many Raleigh citizens oppose the cancellation of the CAC neighborhood committees. Where do you stand on bringing them back? Yes or no question, but of course you can amplify.
As anyone should know by now, since the announcement of my campaign, I think that we need to maximize community engagement as much as possible. I don't know how you represent an audience that you are unfamiliar with. I don't know how you govern on behalf of an audience that you are not connected to. And so for me, I think we need to not only promote community engagement, but we need to make it a brand of the city, something that becomes one thing that was an Achilles heel is now something that we're celebrating for.
So I do not support reinstating CACs. First off, they were not inclusive, they were exclusive. And I can tell you, I attended several CAC meetings where somebody spoke contrary to what the rest of the group wanted. They thought it would be a good idea to build apartments at the village district. Others disagree. They all booed him. That is not community engagement, that is bullying. I've seen people talked down to and yelled at CAC meetings. That is not inclusionary community engagement. We have put together a community engagement board that is composed of renters, new residents, long-term residents, people who have a stake, people who served on CACs and chaired them. This group is going to advise us on how we move forward.
Ms. Copeland?
We definitely need to bring CACs back, and we need to support them so that they could be effective. If there's resources that is needed to help them be more effective or communicate more efficiently, then I think as a city we should lead that. Like Terrence Ruth said, you cannot effectively assist anyone if you do not know their issues. You cannot help someone that you're not willing to listen to. And in order to completely listen, you have to have empathy, but love don't cost anything but respect. Respect differences. But true diversity and inclusion is not gender, it's not race, it's not age. It is a mindset. It's people with different mindsets coming to the table with a common goal in mind, and we take some of yours and some of mine, and we get to that finishing goal. So, yes, I will support.
All right, Mayor. Affordable housing specific development concentrates lower income residents in specific areas. High construction costs and current city policies make it impossible for developers to build affordable housing without subsidies. How is the city council working with developers to spread affordable housing throughout the city and implement policies that help decrease costs and thus lower the rents rather than drive them up? The way I interpret this question is, how is and how can the city work with developers to make it more financially, to make it so that it is cheaper for them to build and thus the rent will come down?
Sure, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the things that we've done is we have used city-owned land, so that's land we control. And we have partnered now with 2 nonprofits to build affordable housing. One in the Idlewild neighborhood, and then also the Southeast Raleigh Promise recently approved that. They'll build about 20 homes, and Idlewild, I believe they're building about 10 or 11. I mentioned earlier, Moore Square, we have said that we want to see on this city-owned land affordable housing, mixed income. How are you going to do that? And we'll pick best, the best suited community that we see. So part of what we can do is city-owned land. We control that, and we have a say over it. And we are rezoning city-owned land to allow for housing affordability. But it's all about partnerships, and partnerships with our nonprofit builders are key.
All right, Ms. Copeland. The idea is, what can the city do, what should the city do to lower, as I read the question, regulatory and other burdens on developers so that they can build affordable housing without having to, cheaper, so it would not cost the developer as much money?
Well, the same way the city works with the county to partner to raise taxes, we can work with the county to make sure that the people who are already suffering with affording housing are not the ones eating up the cost of development. So we can create a strong partnership. And another thing is we keep stating affordable housing. But what do we mean by affordable housing? Affordable to who? Surely not the 80% AMI that they said is the median income in Raleigh, because most people are not AMI. So again, we have a surplus of affordable housing for 80% AMI, but we have a deficit for 60 and 30. So when we discuss affordable housing, we have to know what are we saying affordable and who are we targeting.
And for anybody who doesn't know what AMI is, can you?
Oh, it's the median income, I'm sorry guys, the average median income. So when I say that affordable housing according to HUD means that you should not have to pay more than a third of your income on housing, which will allow you to pay for transportation, medical, food, schooling, and everything else. But if you're paying 75% of your income on housing, something else is going to be lacking.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ruth?
Yeah, I think affordable housing is a regional issue, just like transportation is a regional issue. If we don't lock arms with county, we don't lock arms with municipalities that surround our city, I think we're going to lose an opportunity to actually share costs. And so I shared already that affordable housing overlay would help tremendously in sort of recruiting and fostering developers who are interested in building at that cost. Also, I had a chance to talk to infill developers, and they said it's very difficult at this moment. Even building townhomes and quadruplex to really make it affordable. Affordable for some of the ones that are losing, being displaced at 30%, 60% below. And so we really need to lock arms with partners around this region and address affordability together. Because one city is not going to be able to afford to end or completely end this affordable housing crisis.
All right, we have reached the last question, and then you will all get 1 minute beyond the last question to give a closing statement. Ms. Copeland, we'll start with you on this question. Yes, ma'am. Mindful of our current reality as a city, what gives you hope?
The people. The people give me hope. My son, my granddaughters, what I see outside of being a candidate for mayor, The fact that people have pulled together in this pandemic like never before. People have learned to love differently, but genuinely. And to work with someone like Terrence Ruth and Vielka and Verna Best and be on the Health and Human Services Board, and just to see those who come into the room today, not only to hear, but to give an input so that we can be. And we are the solution. We have a voting process, absolutely, but the people, everybody in this room is the solution. As long as we do it together and be one together, we are the solution.
I had a chance yesterday to meet two young, dynamic leaders. One was a college student, one was a high school student. And the level of knowledge they had around local elections was absolutely impressive. What gives me hope is that somebody at that age is paying attention. That somebody at that age understands the ramification. That somebody at that age understands how significant local elections have been in our history. To me, that gives me hope, especially for a high schooler who has yet to drive, but they know that their streets are important. They know that their sidewalks are important. They know that their home is important. For me, meeting these individuals, these young leaders, is just tremendous. It actually gives me a lot of hope.
What gives me hope is events like today. We're all here because we love our city. And we're all here because we want to make it better. And that is a commitment from all of us. So I'm an optimist by nature. I like to see the best. But we're all bringing out the best. And that's how we make things happen as a community. As I said before, growth is happening. Our city is changing. But the choices we make today are going to impact us 10, 15, 20 years from now. So coming together and really building our city for the future and seeing people who desire that, that gives me hope.
All right, 1 minute closing statements. We'll stick with the format. So Mr. Ruth, you start, and then Mayor and Ms. Copeland.
I just want to first say thank you for all of you who attended today. You have beautiful socks, by the way. But I think the future of a resilient and thriving city doesn't rest on innovating around infrastructure and development exclusively. I think it also rests on empowering residents to build and have the capacity to create their own value in their own neighborhoods and their own community. And what excites me the most about this journey is I haven't had a chance to enter your world and your community, your neighborhood, and you have just given me a glimpse of what makes the future of Raleigh bright. And I just want to thank you for that.
We face important issues as we move forward. Housing affordability, transportation options, policing, gun violence, beautiful parks, ways we can live together. I've been working on these issues now since becoming mayor, but even before that. And we have made tremendous progress. As I said, since 2016, 3,910 new affordable units are in either construction or being constructed. We have a goal of 5,700 units. We have purchased a healthy hotel. That would have been 100 people displaced, 100 families. Instead, we are working with them to keep them housed. We are really focused on building that compassionate city, a city of progress, but also a city of innovation, trying to find new ways of doing things and being creative. So thank you all for being here today and having us.
Raleigh deserves effective leadership, inclusive communication, true affordable housing according to our livable wage. We also need to focus on police accountability and to prioritize our road projects. But Raleigh can be the leader in mentorship. Instead of calling in the feds to identify who's likely to commit a crime, we can establish organizations or support organizations that have second chance re-entry. We deserve a better future, but the only way we're gonna get there is if we agree and do it together. I will be the mayor that will focus more on our people than our buildings. Our buildings are important, but our people are more important. To have a beautiful city without people is not going to be worth anything. And thank y'all for being here.
All right, one more question we're going to do from the audience here.
Thank you. I wanted to ask my question over the microphone. I just want to thank the three of you for doing this. It's a very brave and a very, very hard thing to do. And I am so glad that you have elevated this conversation. I'm very grateful to everyone running. My question is, no matter who wins this election, how are you all going to work together after the election's over? How are you going to keep all these amazing ideas in play and carry on so everyone here has a stake at the table? Like you said, every race, religion, gender, everything, everyone has a place at the table. How will you, as mayor, continue these ideas? And action. I want to see action on them too.
Thank you. Well, first, every time we think COVID has gone, it's gone. It's not. But I'm very hopeful that we're ready to set on a new adventure together. We could not gather like this over the past several years. So now that we can get back together, this gives me a lot of hope that we can continue the conversations. As I said before, our community engagement department is doing a lot of outreach, creating community connectors, bringing people together, making sure that we are in the communities talking to all of you. And that remains a top priority. I don't know if you've ever met Taisha Hinton, who is our community engagement director, but she is amazing. And she is passionate about this, and she's going to lead the way and take us all along. So, and then the council, of course, we will continue to support her and be with her on this journey.
So, both candidates can tell you, when I first personally met Marianne or Madam Mayor, I introduced myself. And one thing that I told her is, win or lose, our paths are going to cross, and we're going to have to work together, and it doesn't have to be hostile. I thanked her for the work that they did in the city. Not everything has been bad. But when I met Mr. Ruth, I said the same thing. I'm a community organizer by birth. This is a gift that I didn't ask for. So to be in the community, organizing and bringing people together for the better good is what I do. This is my life journey. This is not play. I don't take this for granted. And we will work together because Madam Mayor, despite of what we feel, have expertise that we're going to need, and Terrence is also bringing things to the table that we're going to need. So whether I'm the mayor or they're the mayor, I hope that we still continue to do better for Raleigh together.
Prior to my announcement to run for mayor, I have a rich history of working with everyone, from left to right, from rich to poor, from academic, well-educated to high school graduation. I've worked with literally everyone. And when I announced, I reached out to everyone that was on the council, reached out to everyone that was on the commission. I'm here because I care about Raleigh. That's the core of my journey. I care about Raleigh. And so if Raleigh means increasing my efforts as a resident or increasing my efforts as a mayor. I'm committed to both.
All right, yeah, round of applause for Nick. Listen, folks, thank you so much for attending. Thank you to the Muslim Youth Community Center for hosting. Thank you to the partners. Thank you to Wake Up. And thank you to these candidates. I want to hear maybe one more round of applause. It is not easy to stand in front of a room of people and answer 30 questions for almost 2 hours. Thank you. Have a nice rest of your day. Do not forget to vote.